It wasn't supposed to be like this. She wasn't supposed to be caught in the middle of it all. Nora Taylor stood at the threshold of the grand mansion, her breath catching as the cool night air swept past her. She had been a maid in the Romano family for over a year, her life entwined with theirs in ways that no one could ever truly understand. But tonight was different. Tonight, the family she served was in turmoil, and the one person she thought she could trust had become an enigma. Luca Romano, the feared mafia boss, was rumored to be paralyzed, yet no one truly knew the extent of his condition. She had seen him from afar, always in a wheelchair, always surrounded by his bodyguards, but something had always felt off. It wasn't just his icy demeanor or his dangerous reputation. It was the way he watched the world from the shadows, as if waiting for something. And tonight, it felt like that something was finally coming. Nora had always protected Luca's mother, the only person in this mansion who treated her with kindness, but she was beginning to realize there was more at play here than she ever imagined. The tension in the air was thick as Nora glanced down the darkened hallway. She had heard whispers, had seen strange movements in the corners of her vision, but nothing prepared her for what would happen next. Luca Romano, the man everyone believed to be paralyzed, stood up. Without a sound, he pushed himself out of the wheelchair, his body moving with an eerie precision that sent a shiver down Nora's spine. No one had expected this. No one had known. And Nora? She was standing in the middle of it all, unsure whether to run or stay. Her world was about to change forever. The sound of Luca's wheelchair hitting the floor echoed through the vast mansion, a sound that seemed to freeze the entire room. Nora's heart raced, her eyes wide as she watched Luca stand with surprising ease, his movements sharp and purposeful. It was as if the last year had been a carefully orchestrated act, a performance that had fooled everyone, including her. The room was silent, save for the soft hum of the lights above, as Luca straightened his back, his cold eyes scanning the space around him. Nora stood frozen, caught between disbelief and a rising fear she couldn't explain. His gaze flicked toward her, a flicker of something. Was it recognition? Crossing his face. Her breath hitched in her chest as she realized that all the stories, all the whispers, had been lies. Luca Romano wasn't just a crippled mafia boss. He was still the powerful, calculating man who had built his empire with fear. But why had he pretended? Why had he let everyone believe he was weak? Nora felt the weight of the moment settle on her shoulders as Luca took a step forward, slowly, deliberately. She wanted to speak, to say something, anything, but the words caught in her throat. She had been serving this family for so long, yet she had never truly understood the dangerous world they lived in. Now, standing before her was the truth. Luca Romano was no ordinary man, and Nora was caught in the middle of it, unsure of what role she was meant to play. The silence was deafening. Nora's hands were trembling as she stood there, trying to process what had just happened. Luca was no longer the broken, wheelchair-bound man she had cared for. His presence in the room felt like a storm, powerful and intense, and it left Nora with a sense of dread she couldn't shake off. He turned slowly, his gaze lingering on her for a moment longer than necessary. His eyes, once cold and distant, now seemed to hold a hint of something deeper, something she couldn't quite place. "You're surprised." Luca's voice broke the silence, low and measured, his words carrying weight as if every sentence had been carefully calculated. Nora nodded slightly, too overwhelmed to speak. She had always known that Luca was dangerous, that he was capable of cruelty, but seeing him standing there, fully in control of his body and his surroundings, was something entirely different. She wanted to ask him why the deception, why the lies, but the words seemed to catch in her throat. Luca moved past her, his footsteps deliberate and heavy. "There are things you don't understand, Nora," he continued, his voice barely above a whisper now. "And you're about to learn them." Nora's heart pounded in her chest as she watched him move, realizing that this moment, this revelation, had shifted the balance of power in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. She had been part of a game she didn't know she was playing, and now, she had no choice but to follow where it would lead. The tension in the room was palpable as Nora followed Luca through the mansion's dimly lit corridors. The weight of his words hung heavily in the air, and with each step she took, the walls seemed to close in around her. She had been part of this world for so long, but now, with the truth laid bare, everything felt different. Luca's secrets were no longer hidden in the shadows. They were front and center, and Nora was caught in the middle of it all. As they reached the study, Luca turned to face her, his eyes dark and unreadable. "This is where it starts," he said, his voice steady, almost too calm for the storm brewing inside her. Nora wanted to speak, to ask him all the questions that were swirling in her mind, but she couldn't find her voice. She had always known there was more to Luca than met the eye, but she never imagined it would be like this. "You've been loyal, Nora," Luca continued, his gaze softening just a fraction. "But loyalty has its price. And now, you will see what that price is." Nora's heart raced as she realized what he meant. The life she had known, the life she had served, was about to change, and she had no idea where it would take her. As Luca stepped closer, the air seemed to grow thicker, charged with something Nora couldn't quite place. She knew in that moment that everything was about to shift, and she was no longer in control of her own fate. The room seemed to hold its breath as Luca's words lingered in the air. Nora stood frozen, her mind racing, unable to process the weight of what he had just said. His gaze never wavered, his eyes dark pools of intent that made her feel both small and somehow incredibly exposed. She had been loyal, yes, but she had never anticipated a price like this. "You've served my family well, Nora," Luca continued, his voice steady but laced with something that sent a chill down her spine. "But loyalty isn't free. You've seen things, heard things, things no one else should. Now, you'll have to decide what to do with that knowledge." Nora swallowed hard, trying to steady her breathing. She had always known there were secrets in the Romano family, things that went far beyond the surface, but to be pulled into them so deeply, it was overwhelming. Luca stepped closer, his presence towering over her. "You can leave, Nora," he said, his voice dropping lower, more personal. "But the moment you walk away, you lose everything. Not just here, but everything you've ever known. Do you understand?" Nora felt her pulse quicken. She had always been in control of her own fate, or at least she had thought she was. But now, standing here with Lucas so close, with the weight of his words hanging heavy, she wasn't so sure anymore. Everything in her told her to walk away, to run, but she knew that would be easier said than done. The world she had known was crumbling, and it was too late to turn back. The air in the room felt thick, almost suffocating, as Nora stood frozen in front of Luca. His words echoed in her mind, each one a sharp reminder of the choice she now faced. Leave, or stay, and lose everything. She felt as if the floor beneath her had disappeared, and all that was left was a void, an unknown. The mansion, once a place of routine, now seemed like a prison. Luca's eyes were steady on her, unwavering, as if he were waiting for something, perhaps an answer, or perhaps for her to break. The silence stretched between them, heavy and oppressive. Nora opened her mouth to speak, but the words refused to come. What could she say? What could she ask? She had always known this world was dangerous, but now she understood how deep it ran. "You think I've manipulated you, don't you?" Luca's voice broke through her thoughts, cutting through the tension like a blade. She nodded, not trusting her voice. But the truth was, she had never been sure. The lines between loyalty and control had always been blurred. Luca was no stranger to power. He wielded it with an ease that made him both feared and admired. "I never wanted you to be part of this world, Nora," he continued, his tone softer now, as if trying to explain. "But the moment you decided to protect her," he nodded toward his mother, "you sealed your fate. There's no going back now." Nora's heart pounded in her chest as she absorbed his words. There was no escaping it, no simple way out. This was her life now, bound to the secrets and lies of the Romano family. The path ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The realization hit Nora like a wave, crashing over her and leaving her breathless. There was no going back, no undoing the choices she had made. She had always been a pawn in a game far bigger than she had ever understood, but now, she was a player. The weight of Luca's words settled on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. His eyes watched her intently, almost as if he were reading her thoughts, waiting for her to make her move. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Nora's mind raced, torn between what she had always known and the reality that had just been thrust upon her. She had spent so long trying to protect his mother, trying to keep her safe from the dangers of the Romano family. But now she realized that in doing so, she had walked straight into the heart of the storm. "You have two choices, Nora," Lucas said quietly, his voice colder now, more detached. "You can stay, and I'll ensure you have everything you could ever want, everything you could ever need. But it comes at a cost." He paused, letting the words hang in the air, the gravity of them sinking in. "Or you can leave. Walk away. But remember, once you step out that door, there's no turning back. You lose everything. And I'll make sure you never find a place in this world again." Nora's chest tightened, her heart pounding in her ears. The choice seemed impossible, but in her gut, she knew it wasn't really a choice at all. Whatever path she took, her life would never be the same. She had already crossed a line, and now, she was bound to the consequences of that decision. The weight of Luca's ultimatum pressed down on Nora like a suffocating blanket. Her mind screamed for a way out, but she couldn't find one. She looked at him, the man she had always seen as a shadow in the corner of the room, a figure of fear and power, now standing before her in full control. It wasn't just the life she had known that was at stake, it was her very identity. If she stayed, she would be tethered to this world, to the secrets, the lies, the things she could never unsee. But if she left, would she truly be free, or would she simply be cast aside, forgotten, as if she had never mattered at all? Luca's eyes softened for a brief moment, a flicker of something almost human passing through his cold exterior. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, leaving her standing there, more uncertain than ever. "I'm giving you a choice, Nora," he said again, his tone a little quieter now, but no less commanding. "Don't make it a mistake you'll regret for the rest of your life." Nora felt the sting of his words deep within her. He wasn't just offering her power, he was offering her control. Control over her future, over the path she would take. But that control came at a cost that she wasn't sure she could pay. As she stood there, the silence grew unbearable, and in that moment, Nora realized she wasn't just deciding her future. She was deciding who she wanted to be, and the choice was far more complicated than she had ever imagined. The silence between them felt endless, stretching for what seemed like hours. Nora's thoughts were a whirlwind, spinning faster and faster, but she couldn't grasp hold of any one of them. The world around her, once familiar and safe, had turned into something alien and dangerous. Luca's words echoed in her ears, each one a chain wrapping around her heart, pulling her deeper into a world she wasn't sure she wanted to be a part of. As she stood there, caught between the man who had always been a figure of power and mystery and the life she had known, Nora felt the weight of the decision bearing down on her. There was no easy answer, no clear path forward. She could feel the eyes of everyone around her, the unspoken judgment, the expectation that she would choose. But how could she? How could she choose when the price was everything she had ever known? Luca's gaze softened once more, and for a moment, he almost looked like a man, not just a powerful mafia boss. "I'm not asking for your loyalty, Nora," he said, his voice quieter now, almost gentle. "I'm asking you to choose your life. The life you want, the life you deserve." Nora felt the stirrings of something deep inside her, a quiet resolve forming. She wasn't sure what her future held, but one thing was clear. She couldn't keep standing at the crossroads, torn between two worlds. The choice was hers to make, and she had to make it. For herself.